The whisper in the wind. The sky was dark gray and the wind was picking up, blowing dust across the long empty highway. It was the kind of road that stretched so far, it felt like it was chasing the horizon. Keanu Reeves sat behind the wheel of his black Mustang, driving slow, letting his thoughts drift as the soft hum of the tires filled the quiet space inside the car. He hadn't planned to take this road. He just needed to escape Los Angeles for a while, to find some peace, some air. A recent film shoot had wrapped, and though everyone celebrated, he felt empty inside. There were days he questioned why he still worked so hard. He didn't need the money. He didn't crave the fame. Maybe he was just trying to find meaning in a world that often felt too loud. As he drove past a bend near a faded old gas station, something odd caught his eye. A tiny figure, standing right there, near the shoulder of the road. At first he thought it was a dog or maybe someone's dropped backpack, but as he got closer, his heart stopped. It was a child, a little girl, no more than 6 or 7, standing, all alone with no shoes on. Her hair was messy, her clothes were dusty, and she held a worn-out stuffed bunny in one hand. She didn't wave. She didn't move. She just stared as his car rolled slowly to a stop. Keanu opened the door and stepped out. The wind hit him hard, carrying the faint smell of oil, sand, and something he couldn't name. "Hey," he said gently, crouching down a few feet away from her. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't speak. She just looked at him with wide eyes that had seen more than a child should ever see. Keanu's heart ached. He had seen this look before, on war orphans during his charity work, on children who had been abandoned. It was the look of someone lost, not just in place but in spirit. He glanced around. There were no cars, no buildings close by except the old gas station, which looked completely shut down. Where had she come from? "My name's Keanu," he said softly. "What's your name?" The girl looked down at her bunny. Then, in a whisper, so soft it almost got carried away by the wind, she said, "Lila." "Hi, Lila." He smiled, trying to comfort her. "Are you hurt? Are you lost?" She nodded. One tear rolled down her cheek. Keanu gently took off his leather jacket and wrapped it around her small shoulders. He didn't ask any more questions yet. He could see she was cold, scared, and probably hadn't eaten in a while. He led her to the passenger seat of his car and buckled her in. As he drove slowly toward the nearest town, he kept glancing at her. She held the bunny tight, her small hands shaking slightly. There were bruises on her arms. Faint, old ones. Signs of neglect, or worse. He didn't want to assume anything, but something in his gut told him this wasn't just a case of a child wandering off. "We're going to get you help," he said gently. "Some food, a warm place, and then we'll figure out where your family is, okay?" Lila didn't respond. She stared out the window like the wind itself had taken her voice. 20 minutes later, they reached a small diner at the edge of town. Keanu pulled into the lot and parked. Inside the diner, it was quiet, only a few people sipping coffee. The moment he walked in with Lila, heads turned. Not because he was famous. Most people didn't recognize him right away without the movie cameras, but because of the way the little girl looked. Tired, alone, broken. A middle-aged waitress named Carla rushed over. "Oh my Lord," she said, kneeling down beside Lila. "Where'd you find her?" "On the highway," Keanu replied. "Standing by herself." Carla's face went pale. "She's not from around here. I've never seen her before." They sat Lila down in a booth, and Carla brought her hot soup and warm bread. The girl ate, slowly, carefully, as if each bite had to be earned. Keanu stepped aside and called the local sheriff. Within minutes, Sheriff Ray and his deputy arrived. They were kind, not the type to make quick judgments. Ray was tall and gentle, a man in his late 50s who had seen both the best and worst of humanity. They spoke to Lila with care, but she remained mostly silent. Just one thing she said, barely above a whisper, that sent chills down everyone's spine. "He told me not to tell." "Who?" Keanu asked softly. Lila didn't answer. She clutched her bunny tighter. Ray's face darkened. This isn't just a lost child. Something's not right. They took Lila to the local clinic for a checkup, and Keanu went with her. He couldn't leave. He didn't know why, but something deep in his soul told him to stay. Maybe it was because he saw a piece of his younger self in her, abandoned, confused, searching for safety. As they waited outside the exam room, Ray leaned against the wall beside Keanu. "You did a good thing today," he said. "I didn't do anything special," Keanu replied. "Anyone would have stopped." Ray nodded slowly. "Maybe, but not everyone would have cared like you do." Just then the nurse came out, her face serious. "She's healthy, no injuries right now," she said. "But there's evidence she's been through long-term emotional trauma." Keanu felt something twist in his chest as they discussed. The next step, something else happened that no one expected. Lila spoke again. "He's coming." Those two words changed everything. "Who?" Keanu asked again. But Lila just looked toward the window. The sky outside was darker now, and the wind had picked up again. But there was no one there. Still, in her eyes, was a fear so real it sent a chill through the room. And then quietly she whispered again, "He knows you found me." The whisper in the wind. The sky was dark gray, and the wind was picking up, blowing dust across the long, empty highway. It was the kind of road that stretched. So far it felt like it was chasing the horizon. Keanu Reeves sat behind the wheel of his black Mustang, driving slow, letting his thoughts drift as the soft hum of the tires filled the quiet space inside the car. He hadn't planned to take this road. He just needed to escape Los Angeles for a while to find some peace, some air. A recent film shoot had wrapped, and though everyone celebrated, he felt empty inside. There were days he questioned why he still worked so hard. He didn't need the money. He didn't crave the fame. Maybe he was just trying to find meaning in a world that often felt too loud. As he drove past a bend near a faded old gas station, something odd caught his eye. A tiny figure, standing right there, near the shoulder of the road. At first he thought it was a dog or maybe someone's dropped backpack, but as he got closer, his heart stopped. It was a child, a little girl, no more than 6 or 7, standing, all alone with no shoes on. Her hair was messy, her clothes were dusty, and she held a worn-out stuffed bunny in one hand. She didn't wave. She didn't move. She just stared as his car rolled slowly to a stop. Keanu opened the door and stepped out. The wind hit him hard, carrying the faint smell of oil, sand, and something he couldn't name. "Hey," he said gently, crouching down a few feet away from her. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't speak. She just looked at him with wide eyes that had seen more than a child should ever see. Keanu's heart ached. He had seen this look before, on war orphans during his charity work, on children who had been abandoned. It was the look of someone lost, not just in place but in spirit. He glanced around. There were no cars, no buildings close by except the old gas station, which looked completely shut down. Where had she come from? "My name's Keanu," he said softly. "What's your name?" The girl looked down at her bunny. Then, in a whisper, so soft it almost got carried away by the wind, she said, "Lila." "Hi, Lila." He smiled, trying to comfort her. "Are you hurt? Are you lost?" She nodded. One tear rolled down her cheek. Keanu gently took off his leather jacket and wrapped it around her small shoulders. He didn't ask any more questions yet. He could see she was cold, scared, and probably hadn't eaten in a while. He led her to the passenger seat of his car and buckled her in. As he drove slowly toward the nearest town, he kept glancing at her. She held the bunny tight, her small hands shaking slightly. There were bruises on her arms. Faint, old ones. Signs of neglect, or worse. He didn't want to assume anything, but something in his gut told him this wasn't just a case of a child wandering off. "We're going to get you help," he said gently. "Some food, a warm place, and then we'll figure out where your family is, okay?" Lila didn't respond. She stared out the window like the wind itself had taken her voice. 20 minutes later, they reached a small diner at the edge of town. Keanu pulled into the lot and parked. Inside the diner, it was quiet, only a few people sipping coffee. The moment he walked in with Lila, heads turned. Not because he was famous. Most people didn't recognize him right away without the movie cameras, but because of the way the little girl looked. Tired, alone, broken. A middle-aged waitress named Carla rushed over. "Oh my lord," she said, kneeling down beside Lila. "Where'd you find her?" "On the highway," Keanu replied. "Standing by herself." Carla's face went pale. "She's not from around here. I've never seen her before." They sat Lila down in a booth, and Carla brought her hot soup and warm bread. The girl ate, slowly, carefully, as if each bite had to be earned. Keanu stepped aside and called the local sheriff. Within minutes, Sheriff Ray and his deputy arrived. They were kind, not the type to make quick judgments. Ray was tall and gentle, a man in his late 50s who had seen both the best and worst of humanity. They spoke to Lila with care, but she remained mostly silent. Just one thing she said, barely above a whisper that sent chills down everyone's spine. "He told me not to tell." "Who?" Keanu asked softly. Lila didn't answer. She clutched her bunny tighter. Ray's face darkened. "This isn't just a lost child. Something's not right." They took Lila to the local clinic for a checkup, and Keanu went with her. He couldn't leave. He didn't know why, but something deep in his soul told him to stay. Maybe it was because he saw a piece of his younger self in her. Abandoned, confused, searching for safety. As they waited outside the exam room, Ray leaned against the wall beside Keanu. "You did a good thing today," he said. "I didn't do anything special," Keanu replied. "Anyone would have stopped." Ray nodded, slowly. "Maybe. But not everyone would have cared like you do." Just then the nurse came out, her face serious. "She's healthy, no injuries right now," she said. "But there's evidence she's been through long-term emotional trauma." Keanu felt something twist in his chest as they discussed. The next step, something else happened that no one expected. Lila spoke again. "He's coming." Those two words changed everything. "Who?" Keanu asked again. But Lila just looked toward the window. The sky outside was darker now, and the wind had picked up again. But there was no one there. Still, in her eyes, was a fear so real it sent a chill through the room, and then quietly she whispered again, "He knows you found me." The man in the shadow, the room fell silent after Lila's soft words. Even the wind outside seemed to pause for a breath. "He knows you found me." Keanu sat frozen, trying to read her face. Her small hands clutched the stuffed bunny so tightly that its ear was almost torn. Sheriff Ray looked at his deputy, and without a word, the younger man stepped outside to scan the parking lot. The nurse turned off the lights in the hallway, as a precaution. Something about the tone in Lila's voice made everyone alert. She wasn't guessing. She knew. Keanu knelt in front of her. "Lila, can you tell me who he is? Do you know his name?" She hesitated, then whispered, "He said if I ever told anyone, he would come and take me back. And hurt them." Keanu felt the weight of her fear like a stone in his chest. His voice stayed calm. "You're safe now. He's not here. I promise. You?" She looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "He doesn't stop. He watches." Sheriff Ray came back into the room. "We need to move her somewhere secure tonight. I don't like this." Keanu stood. "I'll stay with her, wherever you move her." Ray studied him. "You sure?" "Yeah. She needs someone she trusts. And right now, I think that's me." They relocated Lila to a private guest room at a local bed and breakfast owned by a retired schoolteacher named Mrs. Wallace. The place was quiet, surrounded by trees with a long gravel driveway and no close neighbors. Sheriff Ray placed a deputy in a patrol car at the bottom of the road just in case. Inside the cozy room, Lila lay curled up under a thick quilt. Keanu sat in a rocking chair beside her bed, watching the fire crackle in the corner. He didn't want to leave her alone, not even for a moment. "You want to talk about it?" he asked softly. Lila didn't move, but after a long pause she whispered, "He took me from the motel." Keanu frowned. "What motel?" "My mom. She was sleeping. He came at night. He knocked and told her he was from the front desk. She opened the door and then he took me." Tears slid down her face. I screamed, but no one helped. Keanu clenched his jaw. His hands curled into fists, but he kept his voice steady. "What about your mom, Lila? Where is she now?" "I don't know," she said, shaking her head. "I woke up in a trailer. He told me my mom didn't want me anymore." Keanu exhaled slowly, trying to keep the anger from showing. "He lied. Your mom loves you, I'm sure of it. And we're going to find her. Together." Lila nodded slowly and finally fell asleep. But Keanu didn't sleep that night. He sat beside her with a cup of black coffee, eyes locked on the window. The wind blew harder. Branches scraped against the glass like fingers dragging across a chalkboard. Then, sometime after midnight, he saw it. A figure, barely visible, standing near the tree line by the gravel road. He stood up carefully, not wanting to wake Lila. The figure didn't move. It was too far to make out details, but it was definitely someone watching the house. Keanu stepped out quietly onto the porch, pulling his coat tight against the cold air. The trees rustled, but the person remained, still. Then suddenly the figure turned and disappeared into the woods. Keanu grabbed his phone and called the sheriff. "We've got someone watching from the trees," he said. "Get your deputy up here now." Within 10 minutes, Sheriff Ray and 2 deputies arrived with flashlights and rifles. They searched the woods but found nothing. No footprints, no broken branches, no sign that anyone had been there. "Whoever it was, they know how to stay hidden," Ray muttered. Keanu turned to him. "We need to look into any missing child reports. Check every motel nearby. Lila didn't just wander that highway." Ray nodded. "We'll check with state police, child services, and the FBI. We'll find out who she is and who took her." But the next day brought a surprise none of them saw coming. A woman came into the sheriff's office clutching a photo of a little girl. Her hands shook. Her eyes were red from days of crying. "My daughter," she said in a broken voice. "Her name is Lila. She's 6. She's been missing for 4 days. Ray called Keanu immediately. When the mother saw Lila, she broke down in sobs and ran to her. Lila looked confused for a second, and then dropped the bunny and ran straight into her mother's arms. "Mommy." They held each other for a long time, both crying uncontrollably. Keanu stepped outside, giving them space. But just as he turned to walk away, the mother came out and stopped him. "Thank you," she said, grabbing his hand. "I thought I'd never see her again." "How did you find her?" Keanu didn't know what to say. "She found me." The reunion brought some peace. But questions still remained. Who was the man that took Lila? How did he know where she was? And why did she believe he would come back? Later that afternoon, Ray got a lead. They found security camera footage from a cheap motel near the highway showing a tall man in a baseball cap knocking on room 17's door. Minutes later, he walked away. With a child in his arms, Keanu stared at the footage. "Can we enhance it?" he asked. They did. And when they zoomed in on the man's face, Keanu felt something in his blood freeze. He recognized him, not from real life, but from the background of one of his movie sets. A quiet man who worked as a prop assistant. He never said much, always kept to himself. "His name's Carl," Keanu said. "He worked on set last year. I didn't think anything of him." "You're sure?" Ray asked. "Positive." The pieces started falling into place. Carl had followed him. Maybe not out of hatred, but out of obsession. But why take a child? Why Lila? Ray sighed. "We need to find him before he disappears again. And Keanu, be careful. If he's been watching her, he may be watching you too." As the sun went down, Keanu walked back to his car, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a chill deep in his bones. Not from fear, but from the thought that this was only the beginning. Because someone like Carl didn't just take one child. There could be others. And Keanu had just stepped into something much darker than he ever imagined. Echoes from the past. The wind carried a silence that didn't feel right. It wasn't peaceful. It was like the world was holding its breath. Keanu sat in the sheriff's office beside a wall filled with missing person flyers. Faces of kids, young and old, stared back at him. Their eyes held stories that were never told. Stories that someone like Carl might know all too well. Sheriff Ray placed a folder on the table and opened it. We ran the name through our contacts. Carl Weston, mid-40s. He's moved around a lot. No serious charges, but he's been questioned in connection with 2 runaway cases. Both were dropped due to lack of evidence. Keanu leaned forward. So he slipped through. Ray nodded. We think he's been doing this a while, taking kids who won't be missed right away. Kids from broken homes, shelters, or places where the staff turnover is too high. Keanu felt a deep anger rise in him. We can't let him do it again. Just then, Deputy Lee stepped in with a flash drive. Got something from Carl's last employer before the movie set. Turns out he worked maintenance at a closed-down theme park just outside Santa Rosa. Creepy place. Abandoned now. Ray looked at Keanu. You up for a road trip? Keanu stood without hesitation. Let's go. The drive to Santa Rosa was quiet. The road twisted through hills and forgotten towns. They passed rusted signs and closed motels, the kind of places you wouldn't stop at unless you had no other choice. The theme park came into view just as the sun dipped low. It looked like something out of a dream that had turned into a nightmare. The gates were chained, the paint peeling off cartoon faces. Rides stood still, frozen in time. It's been closed for years, Ray said, shining his flashlight on the faded entrance sign. But neighbors report hearing sounds sometimes, voices, generators starting. Nobody ever goes in, though. Keanu and Ray stepped through a gap in the fence. Broken glass crunched beneath their boots. The place was eerie. Shadows danced across. Clown murals. The air smelled like mold and old wood. They split up to cover more ground. Keanu moved slowly through what had once been the arcade. Dust-covered machines sat in silence, their screens dead. Then he heard something. A faint creak. He turned. A flicker of light from deeper inside. He followed it. His heart pounded. He pushed open a door that led to the underground maintenance tunnels. Pipes lined the walls. Old bulbs flickered. And then he saw it. Drawings, taped to the walls. Childlike scribbles of houses, animals, and people. His eyes focused on one, a man with no face. Tall, holding the hand of a little girl. Keanu's breath caught. Then he heard the voice, a soft whisper. He said, he'll come back. Keanu turned and saw her, a girl, maybe 10, standing barefoot, hidden behind a stack of old boxes. It's okay, he said gently. I'm here to help. What's your name? She hesitated. Rosie. Keanu moved slowly. Rosie, did Carl bring you here? She nodded, her eyes filled with tears. Is he here now? He asked. Not right now. He goes away and comes back. He brings kids here, but they don't all stay. Keanu felt a chill. How long have you been here? I don't know, she said, voice trembling. Maybe weeks, maybe months. He reached out his hand. You're safe now. Come with me. Just then, Sheriff Ray's voice echoed through the tunnel. Keanu, you all right? Down. Here, Keanu shouted back. Rosie flinched at the noise. Ray appeared moments later, flashlight in hand. We found another child, Keanu said. Her name's Rosie. Ray looked at her gently. You're safe now, sweetheart. They guided her out, and as they walked back to the car, Keanu turned to Ray. There could be more, he said. We can't stop now. Back at the sheriff's office, Rosie sat with a counselor. She gave them enough details to confirm that Carl had been bringing children to that park for years. But she didn't know what happened to the others. Only that sometimes, after a child cried too much or asked too many questions, Carl would take them away, and they wouldn't come back. Keanu stared at the table. He's not just a kidnapper. He's something worse. A predator, Ray said. He picks them, grooms them, makes them think they're forgotten. They put out a statewide alert, and news stations began running the story. Keanu Reeves helps rescue 2 missing girls. The headlines caught fire, and within hours, people across the country were calling in with tips. But one call changed everything. An old woman from Nevada. She said her granddaughter had gone missing 3 years ago. Same story. Vanished from a motel. No trace. And then she said something that made Keanu's blood freeze. The last person seen near her was a man fixing the motel's vending machine. He wore a cap. Tall. Quiet. Said his name was Carl. Keanu knew then this wasn't a one-time case. This man had been traveling the country for years, hiding behind jobs that made him invisible, maintenance, props, cleaning, always close to families, always trusted. Ray sat back in his chair. This goes deeper than we thought. Keanu stood. We need to find out where he's heading next. Then Deputy Lee ran into the room with a new report. Another child missing, he said breathlessly, from a bus stop in Fresno. And guess what? Security footage shows a black van parked nearby, the same model that was seen outside the Santa Rosa Park last month. Keanu's jaw tightened. He's moving again, and this time, Keanu wasn't just going to follow. He was going to stop him. The black Vanthy rain hit hard that morning, like the sky itself was angry. Thick drops pounded the pavement as Keanu Reeves stood outside the sheriff's office, looking at the map taped to the wall inside. Red pins dotted 3 states. Each one marked a missing child. And now, Fresno had one too. Keanu didn't speak for a while. He just stared at the line drawn between the towns. It was like following a snake through the tall grass, slow, hidden, but deadly. Sheriff Ray walked in holding 2 steaming coffees. You sure you still want to be involved in this? Keanu nodded. I've already seen 2 of the children he hurt. I can't stop now. I won't. Ray handed him a coffee and pointed to the most recent pin. Witness said they saw the girl talking to a man by the bus stop. He offered her candy. She didn't seem scared. Maybe she knew him. Or he's gotten better at pretending to. Be harmless, Keanu said quietly. A new voice chimed in from behind them. He's not just pretending. He's hunting. They turned to see a woman in a dark suit, FBI badge in hand. Her name was Agent Laura Miles. Sharp eyes. Steady voice. No wasted words. We've been tracking someone matching Carl Weston's description for months, she continued. He changes names, jobs, even walks with a limp sometimes to throw people off. Keanu stepped forward. Why wasn't he stopped sooner? Laura's expression hardened. Because no one believed the cases were connected. Too spread out. Different states, different methods. But when your name hit the news, people started talking. And now we know. He's been hiding in plain sight. She pulled out a file. Inside were photos. More children, more pins on more maps. Some still missing, some found too late. Keanu stared at the faces. It was overwhelming. So what now? He asked. Laura flipped to a page with a license plate number. We finally caught a break. Traffic cam caught the black van heading northeast past Fresno. Next stop is likely Pine Hollow. Ray raised an eyebrow. Pine Hollow's tiny, barely a few hundred people. Exactly, she said. The perfect place to hide. They reached Pine Hollow just before dusk. The rain had eased, but the sky stayed gray. Fog rolled through the hills like smoke. Lara, Keanu, and Ray drove into town in 2 unmarked vehicles. They kept the radio, low and their eyes open. Pine Hollow had 1 gas station, 1 diner, and a row of quiet homes tucked into the trees. The black van was spotted behind a closed bakery on the edge of town. Keanu parked across the street, heart pounding. How do we move? He asked. Lara pulled out her earpiece. Quietly, we check the van first. If it's him, we move in. They approached slowly, weapons drawn. Ray stayed near the back exit in case Carl tried to run. Lara checked the plate. It matched. Keanu peeked through the foggy window of the van and froze. Inside, curled up on a blanket, was a boy, maybe 8 years old. eyes wide with fear. Lara unlocked the door. "We've got a child," she radioed. The boy flinched as they reached for him. "It's okay," Keanu said softly. "We're here to help. What's your name?" "Eli," the boy whispered. Lara stepped back. "He's alive, but scared. Get him to safety." Keanu picked the boy up gently and carried him to the car. Just then, a voice echoed from the bakery behind them. "You shouldn't have come." They turned. Carl stood in the doorway, holding something in his hand. Not a gun, not a knife, but a phone. Lara stepped forward, calm but firm. "Drop it now. You think you're saving them?" Carl's voice was cold. "You think taking them back helps? They cry for a while, then their parents forget them again." Keanu felt fury rise in him. "You're wrong." "Am I?" Carl smirked. "I gave them attention. I gave them time. More than some of their families ever did." Lara didn't blink. "You took their lives." Carl took a step back. "You don't understand," he said. "They came to me." "No," Keanu said, stepping closer. "You picked children who were lost and you used their pain. You didn't save them. You stole their hope." For a moment, Carl's face changed, like something cracked, then he ran. Lara and Ray chased him behind the building. Keanu stayed with Eli. "You're safe now," he whispered. A gunshot rang out in the distance, then silence. Lara returned, breathing hard. "He's down. Non-lethal shot to the leg. He's in custody." Keanu looked at Eli. The boy trembled but held on to him tighter. Back at the sheriff's office, Eli sat beside a warm heater eating soup. He talked slowly, but what he said confirmed what they feared. Carl had taken at least 6 children in the last 2 years, and he kept journals. They found them in the van. Pages filled with notes, drawings, names, cities. One page had a list with 5 names. 3 were still missing. Lara looked at Keanu. "We still have work to do." Keanu nodded. "Then let's find them." Later that night, Keanu walked outside alone. He looked up at the stars finally shining through the clouds. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Lila's mom. "Thank you. She's sleeping peacefully tonight. You saved her life." Keanu put the phone away and smiled softly. "One life at a time," he whispered. But deep down, he knew this wasn't over. Because for every child they saved, there were more still out, there waiting, hoping. And Keanu had made a silent promise. He would not stop. Not until every single one came home. The final 3. The early morning light was cold and pale. Keanu Reeves sat at the long table inside the sheriff's office with a cup of untouched coffee in front of him. Sheriff Ray stood nearby, reading over the latest report. Agent Lara Miles was on the phone with a task force from the neighboring state. The mood was tense, quiet, heavy with unfinished business. On the wall behind them was a whiteboard. At the top were 5 names written in blue marker, names of children. 3 had been rescued. Lila, found on the highway. Rosie, hidden. In the theme park tunnels. Eli, discovered in the black van behind the bakery, but 2 names still remained. Mia, age 7. Jamal, age 9. No one had seen or heard anything about them in over a year. Lara ended the call and walked over. "We might have a lead, a small cabin rental in the forest north of Nevada. The owner reported a strange man who stayed there using a fake name. Said he brought 2 kids and told her they were his niece and nephew." Keanu leaned forward. "Did she report it back then?" Lara shook her head. "No, she only came forward after seeing the news about Carl's arrest." Keanu's voice was quiet. "Let's not waste time." The drive through the forest was long and winding. Keanu, Lara, and Ray took a 4-wheel vehicle up the narrow path that led to the cabin. Birds scattered from the trees as the tires crunched, across gravel and leaves. The cabin came into view just past a sharp turn. It was small, wooden, and covered in vines. A satellite dish hung loose on the side, rusted and broken. No vehicles in sight, no sound except the rustle of trees. They approached with caution. Sheriff's office, Ray called out. Anyone inside? No answer. Lara signaled to move in. The front door creaked open under the weight of Ray's hand. Inside, the air was stale. The living room was empty, a fireplace full of ash, food wrappers on the floor, blankets on the couch. Keanu stepped quietly down the hall. He opened the first door and paused. It was a child's room. Drawings taped to the wall, a book on the floor, a small red shoe beneath the bed. They were here, Keanu said. Lara entered another room and called out, Keanu, come see this. In the far bedroom there was a desk. On it, a journal. The same kind of notebook found in the black van. Lara flipped through the pages. He kept notes again. Locations, patterns, habits. One entry stood out. Mia likes to sing. Jamal reads, all day. They don't ask about their families anymore. Soon we'll move again. Next stop, abandoned farm, Route 63. Ray's eyes narrowed. We know that place. Used to be an apple farm, shut down years ago. How far? Keanu asked. 2 hours if we leave now. Then let's go. The abandoned farm looked lifeless from the outside. The once red barn was faded and collapsing. The house was still standing, but barely. Weeds covered the porch. They parked behind the trees and approached on foot. Lara motioned for silence. A creak came from the barn, then a laugh. Faint, soft, the sound of a child. Keanu's heart skipped. They're here, he whispered. Lara and Ray flanked the barn doors while Keanu slipped in through a side opening. Inside, the barn was dim but dry. Straw covered the floor. At the far end behind, wooden crates were 2 kids, a boy and a girl, sitting together, both thin, pale, but alive. Jamal, Keanu whispered. Mia. They looked up, startled. The boy stood protectively in front of the girl. Who are you? He asked, his voice shaky. My name's Keanu. We've been looking for you. Your families want you home. Mia's eyes filled with tears. He said no one remembered us. He lied, Keanu said, stepping closer. He lied about everything. Just then, a loud bang came from behind the barn. Keanu shielded the children. Stay down, Lara's voice echoed from outside. We've got him. Don't move. Keanu rushed the kids out as Carl was pinned down by Ray and 2 backup officers. His eyes were wide, wild. They were mine, he shouted. You ruined it. They were happy. Keanu stepped forward, calm but firm. They were never yours. Jamal and Mia were reunited with their families later that day. News cameras captured the emotional moment. Tears, hugs, disbelief. A nation watched and felt something rare. Hope. Lara gave a press briefing. She credited the rescue to teamwork, dedication, and one man who refused to walk away when he saw a little girl on the highway. Keanu stayed quiet during the briefing. He didn't need praise. He just wanted the kids safe after. The cameras were gone. Lara approached him. You did something most people wouldn't have, she said. You followed it to the end. Keanu smiled faintly. I didn't find them. They found me, and they trusted me. That was enough. Ray clapped a hand on his shoulder. You changed more lives than you know. Keanu looked toward the children. All 5 now safe, playing in the sheriff's yard under the watchful eyes of their families. For the first time in days, his heart felt light. But then, something strange happened. Mia walked over to him, holding the drawing she'd made in the barn. I drew this for you, she said, smiling. Keanu unfolded it. A picture of a man with dark hair, a kind face, standing beside 5 children under a bright sun. But there was something else. In the corner, a shadow. Tall, far away, watching. Keanu looked up. Who is this? He asked softly. Mia's voice lowered. He said there are others like him. Keanu's breath caught. Lara stepped closer, reading his expression. What is it? He looked up at her, eyes steady. This isn't over. Never alone again, The world outside felt different now. The children were safe, Carl was in custody, and the nightmare that had stretched across states seemed to be over. But Keanu Reeves couldn't shake the feeling that something was still unfinished. He stood alone on the back porch of the sheriff's office, staring out into the horizon. Soft laughter from the children filled the air behind him. Jamal and Mia were playing with Rosie. Leela was coloring with Eli. The sound warmed his heart, but the drawing Mia had given him still burned in his mind. A shadow in the corner. Not Carl. Someone else. Laura stepped outside and joined him, hands in her coat pockets. "You've been quiet," she said gently. Keanu nodded. "Mia's drawing. It wasn't random." Laura raised an eyebrow. "You think she saw someone else?" She said, "There are others like him." And I believe her. Laura sighed. "We have no evidence, but I don't doubt it either. These kinds of crimes, they don't happen alone. Some people move in circles, trade information, hide each other." Keanu turned to her. "We can't wait for the next child to go missing." Laura looked into his eyes. "What are you thinking?" "A task force, low profile, fast-moving. People who care more about the kids than the headlines." Laura studied him. "And you want to be part of it?" Keanu didn't hesitate. "I want to help build it." 3 weeks later, a new unit was quietly approved under federal support. The Child Recovery Response Team. No press, no red tape, just results. Laura led the team. Sheriff Ray was added as a consultant. And Keanu, he refused a title. He just wanted to be called when it mattered. During that time, Keanu stayed in touch with every child they had rescued. Lila had started therapy and was living with her mother again. Rosie was enrolled in school and had made 2 new friends. Eli had reunited with his grandparents, and he wrote Keanu a letter each week with drawings of spaceships and superheroes. Jamal, who had barely spoken before, was now reading books aloud to his younger cousin every night. And Mia. Mia sent a new drawing every Friday. Her latest one showed the 5 of them standing on a stage. Behind them, a crowd of people clapped. In the sky, a golden light shone down. Keanu framed it and placed it on his wall. One evening, Keanu flew to Chicago to speak at a private gathering of child advocates, therapists, and nonprofit founders. He didn't want the spotlight, but Laura insisted he share his experience. As he walked onto the small stage, the room quieted. He looked out at the faces, some tired, some broken, but all full of heart. "I'm not a hero," he began. "I didn't plan this. I was just driving one day and I saw a little girl on the side of a highway, and she changed my life." He paused. "I've played many roles in my life, on screen, in stories, but nothing prepared me for the moment she called me Dad without knowing who I was. She didn't want a celebrity. She didn't want a savior. She just wanted someone to see her, to not walk away." He looked down for a second, then back, up. "These kids, they don't need to be saved. They need to be believed, to be held, to be heard. The real heroes are the ones who choose to stay, the ones who listen. And if we all do that, if we just stop and listen, maybe we'll start to see the shadows before they take more light from this world." The room erupted into quiet, tearful applause. Later that night, after returning to his hotel, Keanu received a call from Lara. "We've got a tip," she said. "A small girl was seen at a truck stop in Oregon. She was asking strangers if they had seen her brother." Keanu stood up immediately. "Send me everything." Lara paused. "You sure you're ready for another one?" Keanu looked at the framed drawing beside his bed, the one with the golden sky. "I'll never be ready, but I'm going anyway." The next morning he was on the road again. Same car, same quiet hum of tires, same winding roads. Only this time he wasn't searching alone. Now there was a team. Now there was a purpose. And as the trees passed by and the sky turned golden with the rising sun, Keanu smiled softly. Because somewhere out there, another child waited. And this time, they wouldn't have to wait long.